Hi, guys, and welcome to the next session. Actually, the section in which we are mostly talking about setting up the entire presentations and getting into the basics of how to design the fonts, what are the font types available, what kind of smart arts we can use, how to set up the master slide. So all of that we're going to cover. And initially, I'll just give you a basic idea about what these things are by taking you through the various sections of it. But at the same time, what we will do is we'll work on a case of improving a presentation because that will sound more or be more practical for you to actually apply. Okay, so for example, you can see out here there's this presentation that I had met, which I felt that it was all across. I purposely made it very bad. And what we can do is we can try to improve this using the concepts that we actually use and try to finish this presentation at the end while learning about all of the curriculum content that we are intending to learn in terms of using font types, using master slide, using images, using smart ad. All of that we will do using a case of improving this presentation. So this content obviously is there in your resource section. You can download it and try to do it along with it. So in the first section, what we do is we try to understand what fonts are and try to get a framework of selecting of specific font, right? And this actually falls under the category of typography in terms of design, right? Now we don't want to really approach presentations from the perspective of becoming a designer. We are more or less trying to make better presentations as businessmen, as entrepreneur, as students, right? So the focus has to be in a generic idea of what fonts are good, what fonts probably are off the shelf, it is too fancy. So let's start discussing right away without wasting more time. So first is the various font types. Okay, so all of the list that you see actually in your list of fonts when you're using Microsoft presentation, or maybe you're using Microsoft Word, or even for that matter when you're using Excel, will have these category of font types, right? And I will not get into the history of this because it's just pointless discussing that, but I will give you a generic idea of what these mean, right? And with examples so that you understand where to use a certain type of font. So first, starting with, if you look at serif, that's one kind of font, and if you add sans serif, then it's just a better version of serif, right? Now, serif is actually one of the first fonts types to actually come in the industry before even it was actually used in Microsoft presentations. Then you've got these fancy three type of fonts which are script, monospaced, and display. Okay. Now in case of very professional presentations, you would not be using script, monospaced, and display. Mostly you will stick around with serif and sans serif. Okay. Now this is the category of when to use certain type of fonts. Okay. So a basic bifurcation is that when you're using headings, okay, you're either using serif and sans, and you can also use serif and sans for the body content as well. Okay, mostly, and I'll give you with examples. Body, you can also use script, but that would only be in case where you're trying to create the content very fancy. Okay, and specific when you're trying to create logos or you just want to write a tagline, then you can also use script or monospaced. But again, there are too many types of monospaced. At the end of the session, I have also linked an article which I felt categorized the various fonts, with examples and with some infographics, which you can better use if you're looking at making it more luxurious in terms of the view, right? So these are some examples of serif. And a very easy way to identify a serif is to just look at the ends of each of these letters, right? And you can see the end is just extended beyond what is actually normally done. If you compare that, and in order to understand this, you can just look at sans serif, right? It has more blunt ends to every letters compared to a serif letter that you see, right? It's extended. Now, if you look at script, it's more fancy, and mostly you will just try to use this in case of taglines, or maybe you're just writing an ad. But you have to be very careful because this, if does not fall under your theme, it will just look out of place. All right. Now, the general rule of making usual business presentations and usual product presentations or anything that we use in business, serif is better for the body, and sans serif is better for headings. All right. So let's look at and this is the article that I was talking about in terms of the font history and classification, which you can actually use. They're saying that the serif is better for body, right? So if you look here, you've got lots of serif examples, right? So you have got Times New Roman, which is majorly used in most of the presentations, and even when you're looking at news articles, it's written in sans serif. Then you've got Garamond. Then you've got Courier New, which is one of the serifs which you can actually use for the content of the body. And heading has to be very crisp and clear, right? So you can see out here that the most common is of course Arial, because you'll see most of the Excel content also, which you actually use a spreadsheet for. The font that you actually use in the spreadsheet is also actually Arial. When you look, you make it into Arial, it's very, very legible. Okay. The idea behind sans serif is that it is very legible. Okay. Compared to if you look at serif, it's more, a little more stylish in general, right? So tell you logically, whenever you're writing content in serif, if even if you go to the next line, it looks as if you have, the content is connected. Okay. Just because of the ends of these letters which I use. I mean, I'm giving you a very bird's eye view of what these fonts work for and where they should actually be used, but that's the general idea. All right. So now what we will do in the next session is we'll talk about layouts, and we'll talk about master slides, and slowly we will also start working on the case study which I discussed at the start of the lecture. So I'll see you in the next session. Bye bye.